Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
And we definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together. Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Shell.
So your background looks a little different.
It does. It does. I moved houses for the first time in almost 20 years. So I have a different background.
I know. I was just thinking when we were about to hit record that we're doing this on video so that we can have, our names to our faces, etc. But it's different now being on the computer again versus sitting in your then kitchen. So you're going to have to get your house unpacked so we can record in person again.
I would like that a lot. I think it was a lot of fun to sit face to face with you and record. And as soon as I get a handle on my house, we will do it again. And I think it'd be fun to do a podcast or a chat about what it's like to, we did that episode, I don't remember how long ago now, over a year ago, about decluttering. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. We need to have a real heart-to-heart conversation podcast episode about decluttering and moving after being in a house for 2 decades. Because it was crazy. It's a lot. But that's not what we're talking about today.
No, it's not.
Do you want to tell us what we're talking about?
So today I thought we'd revisit the why we went to Sicily. I know the last time we spoke, we talked about going because it was Mom's wish, Mom's dream for all of us to go back and visit where all of her family is from. And so I wanted to talk today about, kind of the benefits of reconnecting with our family roots.
Yeah, I like that because we touched on at the end of the last podcast about just learning so much about our Sicilian and Italian heritage and making those connections. And so we have a lot of people who asked us about that and what that meant to us. And so here we are today to kind of, and I think it's popular. Just jumping, I think it's popular these days to connect with your grandparents, your great grandparents, where they all kind of came from and get their stories.
I agree. And, you and I were talking about how we grew up hearing different stories about our family. And I just wanted us to kind of talk about our culture and our identity and what that means, because going there was a really, really big deal to Mom because, of course, she knew her grandparents. And I'm guessing she heard them tell stories of the old country. And we, being the third generation, don't have those memories. And I know there's only 3 years difference between us, but I was actually surprised that there are things I remember you don't. And so that gave us both very different perspectives on this trip of why we were there and what we were doing, or what we were seeing, I guess we could say. So,
well, let's jump into it.
Okay. I don't know how much recap we want to give, but I'll give just a brief one. Our family, our mother's family, all 4 of her grandparents are from Sicily. 3 of them are from a little town called Portorial, and it's in the Trapani district. And the other one is from Alia, which is in the Palermo district. And Portorial as a town was destroyed in 1968 by the Belize earthquake. It destroyed 5 or 6 different towns, and they had to be rebuilt. So when we went, we were not actually walking. Well, no, we did, because we went into the ruins. Are we allowed to tell people we went into the ruins since we had to crawl under a fence?
We posted pictures, so it's out there on the internet.
I think
Mom tagged the mayor, so he knows.
Yeah, we aren't going to discuss Sicilian politics today.
Not at all.
But we did actually get to walk in the footsteps of some of the rubble streets that our family walked. And then in Alia, we got to go in the church where our great grandmother was baptized in 1904. We got to, and probably her mother and father were both baptized there, and so on in generations. And the priest himself actually walked us up the mountain and took us down the street where we know their house had been. I don't remember when the houses were changed, the numbers had changed. He kept explaining, I can't tell you which one, but it was somewhere on this block here. So, but I think a lot of people have told me that they want to go back to their roots. They want to see where their families are from. And it's not unlike, in a small way, making a pilgrimage, if you think about it, to reconnect with, in this case, not your faith, but with your family. And because we went into like so many churches, you could say it was both for us.
I kind of wonder this. I feel like it's almost a newfound thing that everybody wants to do, where you take the blood test and it tells you where your people are from in the world, or reconnect with those grandparents, great grandparents that we've lost, and we don't remember their stories. And maybe it's because our parents' generation is growing older, and many of our friends have already lost their parents. And you're looking at all of their pictures and their memories, and you're thinking, man, I wish I knew. I wish I knew them as people. I wish I knew this or that. And so it's become very, very popular to do this kind of look back. And I could also say maybe it's because people feel unstable in the world. They want to get those roots. We're a much more transient society, people moving from place to place. So maybe you don't have that, like grandma's home that you grew up in, and it's they're still there, and like the cousins live there, and all that kind of thing. There's all kinds of reasons why people are finding all of this. The other thing might be, I'll say, social media too. Because you see other people sharing, like there's this like little Nona grandma who's making pasta on Instagram, TikTok or something, and I'm like, oh, that would have been really cool, to have learned how to make pasta from a relative kind of thing, but we never did that. So I don't know. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons maybe why people are kind of looking backwards to find these stories and want to do this. And that you're right. It's very similar to a pilgrimage you might take for faith or for anything else, but you're reconnecting you're trying to find a piece of yourself through other people's stories.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious how other people feel connected to their families and how far back does it go? I mean, we're talking about, I grew up always feeling like we were Italian Americans or Sicilian Americans, depending on which cousin, grandparent, mom's cousin we were talking to. But being older, we've discovered I have different memories. So I remember going to some of those family reunions and seeing Aunt Angelina. I remember very, very faintly little grandma. So I'm wondering if there's something kind of tucked deep recesses of my brain in my memory that makes me feel very connected to it. Our children do not. We have to teach it to them. And our family's been in the United States now since 1909. The last one to arrived in 1909. So we're talking, I can't do the math, you do the math, 100 and blah, blah, blah years, right? Well, at what point do we stop feeling like our family is Italian American or Sicilian American? We've got more.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we live in Texas, and everything around here is about Mexican culture, Texan culture. There's a big identity in native Texan, or we were talking about how even in our parish church, we're in an area with so many immigrants that it feels like, sorry, that was your story, and I should have let you tell it. Because it was your idea we were talking before.
Well, like a couple years ago, our parish did a big, they were trying to lead up to an international festival, right? Because we do we live in an area of Houston. Houston does have a lot of international people. It's a very international city. And our area specifically has a lot of international people. And so they were doing like, how do you say certain words in your language, or where you're, put the pin on where you're from, that kind of thing. And it was a big focus on it. And I remember it irritated me. Just to be honest, it really irritated me because I'm American. I'm Texan. And as an adult, as a 50-something-year-old, I don't feel that Italian heritage anymore. I don't speak Italian. I don't, besides knowing like mangia, like what Grandpa used to say to us at the dinner table. I don't know any. I know a lot more French and Spanish than I know any Italian. Had never really been to Italy. I've been to lots of other European countries and Mexico, and so I guess I found it was unsettling for me because it made me question where am I from? I'm from here. My parents were born in Texas. We were born in Texas. My kids are born in Texas. My husband's family, it's like born in Texas. It's kind of, it just is what it is. And so, so this is an interesting conversation for me because growing up, you're right, we wore those buttons on our shirts that said, "Kiss me, I'm half Italian." And I will bet you, as I'm cleaning out this house, these boxes, I will probably find one of those buttons because we used to go to the Italian festival every year in Houston and see mom's cousins and, the kissing Italian cousins and all that stuff. And as a kid, I was like, oh, I'm half Italian. It was so cool to be, identity, right? Mm-hmm. But as an adult, I don't feel it. And I think that's because I know so many people who really are a lot closer in lineage to that immigration. And for us, we grew up with, saying it, but not really living it. And so, I'm not surprised our kids don't have it because besides having Italian sausage every year for Christmas, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of Italian culture that we're living on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
I think that came naturally because Granny lost her parents young, and our grandpa's was the youngest of, our grandfather was the youngest of 11 children, 9 of whom survived to adulthood. I have been over to descendants of his oldest sisters, and their family still do all the customs. They still do all the foods. They make the cookies. They celebrate St. Joseph's Day with the altar. So, and it makes sense. The oldest daughter would be the one to carry the family history and to pass down the traditions. We're from the baby boy. So where are our traditions that got pulled through beyond Granny making spaghetti sauce on Sundays and hard-boiled eggs in the sauce? And I think we always called it sauce.
I didn't know that was an Italian thing, the hard-boiled eggs thing. I just thought it was some random weird thing that Granny did.
See?
But that's part of it, like it's, And I will say also, we can't leave out the fact that when they immigrated in the early 1900s, there was such a stigma attached to immigrants from Italy and Sicily and other parts of the world too. But there was a stigma, and they tried very hard to blend, assimilate. Mm-hmm. And so they, like Grandpa didn't speak a lot of Italian. Granny, I don't think spoke any Italian.
Only the Hail Mary.
Okay.
I think she told me that she did her prayers in Italian.
Okay. But, it was very much, we're American, we're here for a better life, the American dream. Our kids, the kids are going to be Americans. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there was a loss along the way of the language and the culture and the traditions because they were so eager they were here for a reason, and they were eager to celebrate it. Right.
Well, and from the research I've done, the discrimination was real. I think every immigrant group that comes, no matter what time period, faces a level of discrimination. And it's generational. We have to move past it. And we are past that. And I mean, as Italian immigrants, we're past that, descendants.
Now it's other immigrants who are getting it.
That's right. And so like the Vietnamese coming over in the 1970s, they experienced it and so on and so forth. So you're never going to get away from that. what I think and feel is different now is that what you said, when ours came over, they wanted to be Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And so they learned the language as much as little grandma could, but their children learned the language and so on and so forth. And other people I know who are first and second generation or third, but first and second generation, their families did the same thing. Mm-hmm. But more and more, we seem to want to celebrate our diverse identities. And so that brings up the questions you raised, which is, but I'm from Texas and my parents were born in Texas. And I mean, we go on dad's side, we've been in the United States for a heck of a lot longer than we know. We can't find a boat for him. So,
but I think that's okay though. I don't think we, I don't want to be pressured into, I have to be something.
I agree.
I'm Texan and I'm pretty proud of being Texan. So as people from outside of Texas always say, this is so weird. Y'all's, state pride. So I'll claim it.
Well, so I would just want to speak again for a moment about culture and connection. We've mentioned that America is a nation of immigrants all the way from the back. People have come here in search of a better life. So my question is, how many generations before we begin to lose that old world culture?
Is this a trick question? I don't know. I mean, I think we're at 3, right? Mm-hmm. And we're done. I mean, I'm just saying, I already said, I don't feel that an identity to that, where our great grandparents came from, apart from their stories, you know what I mean? But I did not go to Italy and be like, oh my gosh, I found my people. Sorry.
Well, as long as you're okay that I did feel like that when we went there.
That's what's so interesting.
Yeah.
Is that we had such
really
a different
appearance.
That. Yeah. But you also remind our listeners what your degrees are in and your background, because I think that plays a huge part of, we're different people. I know, shocking. But you also, that your life has been dedicated to this kind of thing. So
that is true. Well, she's right. I have a bachelor's degree in English and history and a master's degree in applied history. And I spent 20 plus years working as an archivist and doing genealogy with my mother. So,
yeah.
So that's kind of my passion, an oral history, helping people collect stories of their family members to pass down to their children, to create those legacies. And so I have studied this for, oh my gosh, what? I dare not to even think 30 something years. Mm-hmm. And so I understand the value of understanding where you come from and why, and how understanding where you come from can help you move forward and ahead and plan for your future. But I think it's good to have a sense of belonging and to be able to identify your heritage so you know what you want to pass on to your children. There's something sweet about knowing that this family recipe comes from, little grandma, or that family recipe was brought over, and it doesn't have to be something that's that old or we'll go back to Thanksgiving with our father's family, right? The dressing.
Oh yeah. I think we did an episode about this, didn't we?
We did.
About family gosh, I used to have I'll tell you, I had a cheat sheet that had like the list of podcast episodes and the titles so that I could oh, that's episode this. I've moved. I haven't gotten that yet.
Pretty sure it was on family traditions. So
yes, I'm pretty sure. I was thinking chocolate pie, but you said dressing. But yeah.
Yeah. I think the dressing might be older than the chocolate pie. That would be an interesting.
I'm the age I am, and they were both there when I was little. So,
well, I know genealogy is a really popular thing, also, especially with the advent of Ancestry. Everybody can do it online, or mom would be like, "There are other ones you could mention too." No, Mom, I can't remember them. I tell you this all the time. If I don't have them bookmarked, I call you and I ask you, was it Heritage Quest or some other, My Family, whatever? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can leave me feedback, Mama. Thank you.
But I think what you said a few minutes ago about understanding the why did they come and what were they in search of and what were their hardships and kind of it's I would say it's kind of the same reason we study the saints or we read about the saints and that because I love to read about the saints. So we read about the saints because they are people. Some could argue whether they were normal people or special people, but they were people who had hardships and lived their lives through Christ. Like they found Jesus and they changed their lives and lived for him. And we read and learn about them as helpful examples to emulate. And I feel like our ancestral history or our past generation history or immigration history is the same kinds of things in that people really struggled. And I think visiting Sicily and seeing it and seeing, like you said, those hills where our great or great grandparents probably farmed those specific hills outside of Porto Real, and seeing, I'm going to say how poor the island still is and only imagining what it was like over 100 years ago. To see how difficult life was that, what was it, a third of their population left and came to the U.S., and then how they struggled here. It really teaches us something about the resilience of people and about family and overcoming and hard work and, all of those kinds of things. And so I wish I had more of those specific types of stories. And my hope is that you and Mom one day will put it in a book form or something so I can read about it. But I think that there's a lot of, we'll say, for instance, our hairdresser is a Vietnamese refugee. And she was just telling me that this week or last week, I can't remember, but September is the anniversary of her getting on her boat in Vietnam. And I think first she went somewhere, I can't remember, then she ended up in Houston. And it's been 50 years. And she kind of talks about what that means to her to have been to be a teenager and then put on a boat by her mother with her younger cousin, I think it was, and a sibling, and then coming to Houston and then, having to like get things out of the dumpster and like trying to find her new life. And, and she has, obviously, and she's done really well and her whole family's here now. And so again, hearing those stories from her and then realizing that our family came through, almost 100 years earlier, and they had similar stories of had to leave their country to find a better life and then struggled and then succeeded or, helped their children do better.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize it had been 50 years for her already.
I didn't either. She told me that when I was there we've talked about it before, but I didn't realize it'd been 50 years.
Her story is hard to hear. It is, a miracle that she got out the way she did. Yeah. So, okay. Well, now I'm thinking about her. Sorry, I'm completely distracted.
I know. I would love to have her come on sometime. I don't think she would do it. I don't think so.
I've been asking her to let me record her story or to record her mother's story. But that's another thing for another time. So. Sorry, you sidetracked to her. Now I'm
That's okay. That's okay. It just made me think of her because we were talking about it.
Oh, I know. We were talking about the collecting of stories and how you wish that Mom or somebody or I could find more stories. And I want to say that for a lot of people, if you want to study more about your culture, to build that culture and connection to your family past, then there's a couple things that you can do for that. For example, as we've mentioned, you could start genealogy, you could start the study of your family and pursue that, building a tree. And I always tell people, start with what you know, start with your parents and your grandparents and start asking questions. This is not a genealogy podcast. I'm not going to tell you how to do all that. So stop there. You can begin to collect those family stories. And I can't tell you how many times I'll be around somebody and they'll be like, I really should write that down, but they never do. Or their daughter, one of my friends, she was saying, Mother, I bought you that subscription where they send you a question a week and then you answer it and then they put it together in a book or something for you. And she's like, I know, I just, don't want to. And I say, no. I said, what you want to do is when you're thinking about it, do what our grandmother used to do. Keep your, well, she kept a tape recorder, but now we keep, our phones have voice memos and just turn it on and start talking about it. Because even that will collect that family story. But I have noticed there are places like Puerto Real in America, because Puerto Real had been destroyed. And our mother is one of the co-founders of this organization. And their whole mission and purpose is to collect all of these family stories. I mean, it's kind of incredible if you think about it. They're all descendants, first and second generation from the original immigrants. They collect these stories, they record them, they document, they share the information. And more than that, they're helping to connect descendants with each other, both in the United States, internationally, including with people who still live in Puerto Real. And I love these relationships that they're building. And they're trying to use this as a resource so that the next generation and the next generation have a place to go to learn more about that culture and to learn more about their family. So
that was really, so I've known about, PIA for a while, and through mom, and my son received one of their scholarships for college. And it's been really informative, and going to the city and going to Puerto Real, and people know about it and they talk about it, and it's interesting to me because I wondered if there are other cities, not just in Sicily, but in other countries, do they have these kind of connections? Because in like Puerto Real and some of these Sicilian cities, such a huge percentage left, and I know that's not completely unique to that area of Sicily. So I wonder if around the U.S., if there's other groups that do the same thing for other countries, other cities, and offer that kind of, we'll call it education or even a resource to people who are doing the searching and want to find connections. That was really interesting to me, that there's so many descendants from this little bitty town in the mountains of Sicily, tiny little farming community, very poor, that are now in the US. And there's so many of us that they've created this organization and come to find each other. So that was really interesting to think about while we were there meeting these people.
And I don't remember if I mentioned this on the last podcast or not, but when Mom and I went to Sambuca, and when we went into the cemetery, and when we went into the cemetery in Puerto Real, the last names, we knew all the last names. I mean, it was like flipping through a phone book for Houston or an Italian phone book. It was like, oh my gosh, I know people with this name. I know people with this name. I know these people. Hey, isn't this the builder that has the advertisement on the TV? Oh, wait a minute. I know. We were just walking by.
At one of the reunions for Puerto Real in America, one of the ones I didn't go to, but my mom was showing me pictures of it, and I'm like, she was one of my pledge sisters in sorority, and she was there with her mom because her grandparents were descendants. So it is funny how so few people in this little bitty town have created such a legacy we'll say in the United States, not just in the US, but in the US. So it is interesting.
Well, I think for us, it was different because we had to go all the way back to Sicily for it. But as we're talking and you're saying that, I'm mindful that there are genealogy organizations and big genealogy families that have reunions and get-togethers. I'm thinking like the Thomas Jefferson descendancy, or the Mayflowers, the big organizations. And it's not quite the same, but it feels like when you're talking that maybe it's more the same than I was originally thinking. So,
yeah.
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think the point is simply that we've got these families and we're all connected. And it's important to kind of evaluate where we're from and who our relationships are, and pass that on to our children, the good. If you have bad in your past, then what can we learn from it so that we don't repeat it? If there's generational trauma or addiction, if there's some sort of a generational baggage, if we understand it and know where it comes from, then we can turn and break that purposefully to create a better life for our children. And I think that's another important thing that comes from understanding our family roots and identifying with our family culture.
Mm-hmm. That's true. There is a large contingent of people right now who are trying to understand and move forward. And I guess that's a part people forget. It's not just wanting to celebrate and live in the past, but it's about how do we understand our family so that we can move forward and do better, just like they might have come here to have a better life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to break the adversity and take strength from what they've had to survive in the past and be positive moving forward, that we can and we will always continue going forward. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's important. I hope that our children, especially coming on this trip, understand that sense of belonging, no matter where they're from, because you and I have talked about this before. I tell my kids they're American mutts. They have, having done family trees between my husband's family and mom and dad's family, I can put them almost any place in American history. So how do they identify? Are they Italian? Are they Native American? Are they Texan? Are they Oklahoman? Are they, how do they see themselves? And these are questions to think about.
I never asked my kids that question, so that's interesting. We'll see what they would say.
Yeah. So
I did have one of my children told me once that they thought they were born in the wrong place. So they wanted to be a different something. They wanted to be European. I won't say where. It wasn't Italian.
It had to be France or England or something like that. Because I've got one of your kids in my mind.
Somewhere cooler.
Yeah. Well, the first time I ever left the country, I told you this, but I don't think I've said it on the podcast. I went to London, and it felt very comfortable. And then I went to Italy. I landed in Rome, and I was immediately emotionally struck by the language being spoken, and the driver looked so much like our grandfather. In, I'll say, late 50s, early 60s. Well, he died at 62, so it must have been like the late 50s. Oh my gosh, he was so young. It was very overwhelming for me emotionally. And going to Sicily, I didn't feel it as much as I wished I had until we got to Alia, and we were in the church with the baptismal font. And there I felt this very strong connection immediately to Granny and to her. I guess it's that umbilical line, that we're all connected to our mothers. And that's the line where we're standing. You've never heard that?
No. I will say the first time I went to Italy was just to Milan for 24 hours. So it wasn't, not southern Italy, northern Italy. I don't really remember much about it besides getting gelato and, whatever. But this trip this summer was I would say my first real trip to Italy, because I was there for a week and a half. And I know that you had said that about going to Rome and feeling that connection and the language and everything else. And I didn't have it. I did not have that experience, and I didn't feel connected. The only really strange part for me like that was seeing so many people that I thought were mom from far away. And I kept going, oh, there's mom. And then the person turns around, well, that's not my mom. But like there was a lot of people who look like our family, like grandpa and like that was weird. But no, the language and the food, the culture, that wasn't something that, sorry, I feels like it's such a traitor to say that out loud, but no, it didn't jump out at me. So, as feeling comfort, it felt very awkward, especially since none of us speak Italian, which, that was very awkward.
So you're going to laugh at me. Maybe you might roll your eyes. when I tell you that depending on who you talk to, they would say
Mhm.
you haven't been to Italy, you went to Sicily, and that there's a difference.
That's fine. So I've been to Milan. You can't argue that's not Italy.
No,
And I
that's
was at
true.
the
But you were
yeah,
saying we spent time there. Yeah.
we spent time in Sicily, and I went to the airport in Rome. But no, I've never been to like outside the airport in Rome or anywhere like that. But still, the Sicilian culture did not. I didn't feel like at home or. No,
Well,
sorry.
it's been over 100 years. 115.
I,
115 years.
yeah. Like I said, we were. I know you and I disagree on this, but we were not immersed in it as children, and even at the reunions, I remember, growing up, all these the Maniscalco and the Montalbano and all that reunions. It was fried chicken. I mean, people brought fried chicken.
The more the Italian festivals, I think that we were brought to know about the culture.
Yeah.
And Mom pointing out the Sicilian cart every time we'd go. Oh, they have a Sicilian cart. We'll look at the decorations.
Yeah. So it was a great experience, and I loved going, and I loved seeing Mom explain everything, and it was pretty cool to see these places that I had seen in pictures for so long, through her stories and the Portugal America group and all of that. So it was really cool. So I wonder, that's why we're doing this podcast though too, is because you and I think about things differently, and I think it's important that someone listening to us might be like, it's not both of us thinking the same thing. It's like, some people might be like, Lisa, how could you say that? And then other people are like, no, I get it. So
No, that's really important. So. Well, now I'm kind of curious if our listeners would like to share with us. Have you ever had this experience? Do you know where your family's from? Have you ever gone back to the place where your family is from? I mean, it doesn't even have to be in Europe. It could be here in Texas. It could be someone in Texas going to where your family emigrated from, Alabama or Virginia but have you ever gone to a place and had like a sense of connection, like almost an immediate sense of, oh, wow, this is where my grandparents or my great grandparents lived? Maybe it's something from your childhood, or maybe it's something you've heard your mother or your grandmother always talk about. Mm-hmm. So drop us a line, let us know.
And speaking of that, we did get listener feedback. We got an email from Tracy. I will not say her last name, just out of privacy. And she said she left us an email after the last podcast, and we'd had a little break and over the summer. And she said, just a quick note to let you both know it was great to have your podcast back. I enjoyed hearing all about your big family trip. And yes, it was good to check out the video to match each voice with the proper face. God bless Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. That really made our day when we got that email. Shelly immediately called me. She's like, "Did you see your email?" So that was cool. And I'm glad you enjoyed putting a name to a face, because that is something we hear all the time from y'all, is that you can't tell us apart.
I have people at the church who tell me that, are we twins? So
okay, just look at the screen for just a minute, Shell. Okay, yeah, not twins,
not twins,
but we know that our voices they sound very much alike. So the last episode, 58. About our trip. That episode is on YouTube, full video, us sitting next to each other talking. It was our first time to do that. So I will say the audio isn't spectacular, all that kind of stuff, but we decided to try it, and we'll work on it to do it again. And then this one, we're back on our computers doing it from each of our respective houses, because now we don't live as close as we used to. But we are going to.
No, wait, it's this one.
It's my fault. Is that what you're saying? She's pointing at me, mouthing words. Yes, I moved away from you. But yes, so we're going to release this video of us on our computers, at least, so we're going to try to normalize doing videos, which means I guess I need to start wearing makeup more. or doing my hair. All right, Shell. I think we are done here. I think I hear my daughter in there making some lunch, so I gotta go.
All right. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and be sure and leave us some feedback and let us know what else you'd like to hear us talk about.
All right. Bye.
Bye.